everybody, and welcome back. So this is not a bump video, this is a postpartum video. Today I am exactly 2 weeks postpartum. If you want to hear about my birth story, how my labor went, see some photos of the beautiful little girl that I had, please stay tuned because we will get into all of that. I do apologize for not having any footage of the actual labor and birth. I know I said that I was going to get it. Unfortunately, labor did not go exactly as I had planned, as does it ever. But I'm just gonna go ahead and hop into the video now. So I did not get any footage because of the way I went into labor, how my labor was going. I do have some photos of her when she was born, and I do have some also other photos that I'll be showing later in the video. Also, I've been taking photos of my postpartum body. I took a photo every day for the first week, and then one for today as being 2 weeks postpartum. I have the weight that I was when I was last pregnant, and as I've been going down as well in my current weight, so you guys can kind of see that as well if you'd like. So please stay tuned for the video if you're interested in hearing and seeing any of these photos or anything like that in my birth story. So to go on and get right into it, if you have been following my channel, I was due July 14th. The baby did not come until July 23rd. However, I did have an OB appointment on July 22nd, and the OB did check me and did a stretch and sweep. I also got my husband to do a stretch and sweep. He's not a medical professional at all, but you know, after having it done a million times myself, I got him to throw in a glove, instructed him what to do, and he did that. And we also had been putting evening primrose oil up my vagina every day for several weeks, and that's supposed to help soften your cervix, which actually it did work because the front of my cervix was soft, but the back was still a little bit more firm. So if anybody does want to use that, it does work. That's one thing I can say did work. Anyways, we will go ahead and get into it. So on July 22nd at 2:22 a.m., I had decided to sleep on a towel for some reason, and I wake up and I feel this weird air bubble in my stomach. It was like a rolling feeling, and then felt something coming out of me. Well, I thought it might have been the evening primrose oil, because sometimes a few days before that I had felt like something may have been leaking and it was just the oil. So I slept on a towel. Anyways, so I'm like, oh, well, this is different. So I go to get up and I'm just like, whoop, my water had broken. My water has never broken in any of my labors before, ever. I've had gone into labor twice naturally on my own and had to be induced with my son. Never has the water broken. It's always had to be done by the doctors. So this is a whole new experience for me. I called my husband at about right after it happened. I was sitting in the toilet. I'm like, babe, my water broke. He was working midnights. He had to wait for a supervisor to come, and by then my contractions had started at about 2:30 in the morning, by the way. And so he came home, and we called the midwives. I was timing them, and at that time my contractions were every 2 minutes, lasting for about 40 seconds, but they were consistent. And so I called them because I have never experienced my water breaking. I don't know. I know the 511 rule or the 411 rule, which is your contractions every 5 minutes, lasting for a minute for an hour. So I had my contractions had been the 2 minutes for every 40 seconds for an hour or more. And so we're like, okay, well, we're going to call because they're regular, they're consistent, but they're not the typical what you're supposed to have. So they said for me to go ahead and come in because I was about 30-40 minutes from the hospital. And they said to go ahead and come in, they'll check me. So we went into the hospital. We actually ended up having 3 different babysitters that day while I was in labor. And so we called my mother-in-law, who thankfully came over very, very early in the morning. We ended up arriving at the hospital about 4:30, between 4:30 and 5 o'clock in the morning. My contractions were still consistent. When they checked me around, I think they checked me around 6 or 7, and I was only 3 centimeters dilated. They gave me the option to kind of walk around or just stay in the room. We chose to stay in the room because it was a little chilly outside in the morning, and so we did that. I think by 10 o'clock I was in official active labor or whatever, and we had my full labor was 22 hours, which is the longest labor I've ever had. I also had back labor. I started feeling the back labor while I was at home a little bit, but it wasn't too bad. But once I was at the hospital, it got worse and worse, and I had no idea what to do for back labor because I've never experienced it before. So the midwives were trying to help my husband and show him like how you can put pressure on my back, and that helped tremendously with my back labor and helping me. I was like contraction, and I'd lean up against the wall like this and have my head down, do my breathing that I learned in hypnobirthing, and he'd put pressure on my back for me, and it was amazing. So I ended up going, I know I wanted to do full hypnobirthing, all natural labor, water birth is everything I was hoping for. That did not happen at all whatsoever. So after about 10 hours of labor, back labor, everything was just getting worse and harder for me to be able to focus and concentrate and breathe. And the midwives were absolutely incredible the entire time because I could tell that I was starting to get upset and just having a hard time with the pain and the contraction. They were just like, okay, do your breathing, relax your forehead, and because they knew that I was doing hypnobirthing, and they were amazing trying to help me to stay calm and relaxed as well. But it just got to the point where I just cannot take the pain in my back. I'm a sucker when it comes to back pain, I guess. So after 10 hours, I decided to get the epidural. Unfortunately, it did not work the full way for me. It worked for the left side of my body, but not the right side of my body. So I did still feel a lot of the contractions and stuff like that, unless I was laying on my right. Unfortunately, with the baby though, she preferred me on my left side, as she always has. Even when I was pregnant, she'd always prefer me sleeping on my left side instead of my right or anything. So I had to stay on my left side quite a lot. Whenever I did go to the right, I did start to lose some feeling or on my back. So I got a little bit of relief at those times. I did get rid of my back labor, which I was super thankful for. So it totally worked for my back labor, just not always for my contractions. So I still felt all of those. So with my labor, it was really long because sometimes the contractions kind of started to slow down, and then they'd go up again, then slow down again, and go up again. And so they ended up having to give me oxytocin, which there was a couple of times where it was actually kind of, I finally look back and it's kind of amusing now. They were actually good because I was in the midwife unit. It's called an AMU unit, and not the typical labor and delivery ward. So they actually went to go consult with the obstetrician that was on call about possibly doing oxytocin because my contractions had slowed. And by the time they had gotten back from that consult, before the OB had gotten there, my contractions would pick up again. But the second time they didn't quite pick up, so we did get oxytocin, and they had to turn it up like once or twice to get my contractions flowing and going again. And so yeah. So that happened. There was a possibility that I almost did have to be switched over to labor and delivery, but thankfully, by the graces of God, typically when you have to be put on oxytocin, if you're doing a VBAC, you would have to be transferred of care. But I'm not sure what happened or how it happened, but thankfully I was able to stay on the AMU. They were able to give me the oxytocin over there, and I still got to stay on the ward that I wanted to, which was amazing because I was really nervous about what's going to happen. Are the guys going to be able to be there when she's born? Because the other labor and delivery, it's a different section of the hospital, different rules and stuff like that. So, but yes, I'm rambling a little bit. I do apologize, but I did get to stay on the AMU unit, which is amazing. So we'll go ahead and we will fast forward through the labor some more. It was about, here's 5 o'clock in the afternoon. We had thought, the midwife had checked me, and she said that I was dilated. So we're like, okay, cool, go time. And so I did let them know I'm doing hypnobirthing. I'd like to breathe her down instead of pushing her out. And like, okay, that's great. So I just did some breathing exercises for about an hour or so, and then checked me again. And I guess they had made a mistake. It was a student, so things happen, right? And she'd made a mistake, and I was only 8 centimeters, not 10 centimeters. So we had to wait a little while longer. And by midnight, so this is now July 23rd. So by midnight, I was fully dilated finally, and I was able to start pushing. But a lot of times when they were checking, they didn't check me all the time, so but still want you to think that they did. But when they did check me, sometimes her head would be higher up, and other times her head would be low. So her head was kind of bobbing up and down kind of thing throughout my labor. So when they did check me and I was fully dilated around midnight or so, her head was still quite up high, but they wanted me to go ahead and start pushing because they didn't want her head to go up even higher or whatnot. So they said the reason I had to push for so long and it was so hard was, she was born sunny side up. And they said that that's a difficult thing to do, to be able to push a baby out like that in the first place. But with her head being so high as well, it took a lot more effort to push her out down through the canal and all of that stuff. So I did push her out. By the time it was time to push, the epidural had worn out. They did have to change the epidural, I believe, twice, maybe 3 times throughout my labor, because I was in labor for so long. And they're not, it wasn't like the typical IV drip. It was like in the machine they put it in. It was like a smaller thing. So again, a total of 22 hours of labor, but the epidural I was only had for about 12 hours or just under, because it had just disappeared. And it was fine because I wanted to have a natural birth in the first place. So it was perfect that it wore out just in time for me to be able to feel everything, because with my previous children, they had the epidural turned up so high, I couldn't feel my contractions. I didn't know when it was time to push. They had to tell me everything. With this time, I knew when I was having my contractions. I knew when it was time to push. I felt everything, which is what I wanted, because I wanted a natural birth. And so I can finally say that I in a sense, I did have a natural birth, because I felt everything when she was coming out. I felt my contractions. I felt every sensation, every pain, and it was nothing like anything I've ever experienced. It was quite painful, not gonna lie. And every time I to try to, they typically, okay, sit up, push your head down and push for like they're counting to 10. But I was like, sometimes I got so distracted by the pain I was feeling. I was like, I had to stop and take a quick breath, but I wasn't taking the full breath that I was supposed to. I was like that, and then started pushing again. So it kind of messed up the flow a little bit, because I wasn't doing things properly how I was supposed to. But every time I look back after having a birth or a baby, I look at things I could have done differently or things that I will do differently. And so I know next time I will try to focus more on my breath instead of the pain. So, I am going to do it again, by the way. After seeing the look on the dad's faces when she was born and how they are with her, is just like, at first, then actually the nurse, when they wheeled me out of the hospital that night, it was, are you gonna do this again? And I was like, honestly, I don't know. And they're like, too soon. And I was like, yeah. And then, after a few days, I was like, you know what? I am gonna do this again. Anyways, I started rambling again. So back to my labor story. It was 12:49. I believe she was when she had finally made her arrival. She was born sunny side up. She was 7 pounds 8 ounces and 21 inches long. We pulled her when she was born. She was placed on my chest, and it was actually this really strange sensation, because I could feel the umbilical cord still attached inside of me, so I could feel that like attachment, which was a little bit weird. But she came out and she was crying like crazy, and she was beautiful and healthy and perfect. I do have a picture of her like right after she was taken and she was put on my chest. So we delivered the placenta, and after we delivered the placenta, I think they cut the cord first, and then I was holding her while we delivered the placenta, and then we passed her off to her dad's, where one dad cut the cord and the other dad did the skin to skin with her. So we ended up staying in the same room at the same time, because we only ended up staying, because the unit I was in, you can stay about 3 to 4 hours. They did say, she was born in pretty much in the middle of the night at like 12:49 a.m. So they were like, you can stay a little bit later if you want to, have a nap, get some rest, and then, leave when you're ready, kind of thing. But we decided to go ahead and leave. The guys left, and then we left like right after them, because my husband was on midnights, as I mentioned previously, and the poor guy, I felt so terrible. He was up for over 24 hours, because he was awake from 12 o'clock the previous day before, because I had the OB appointment, so he didn't really get to sleep during the day much like he typically would. And then he was up from all night from the labor, and 22 hours for the labor as well. And so he was up for quite a while. And so I was like, while we all have this burst of energy and feel all these hormones flying that are good, before we crash again, let's go ahead and get out of here so we can have a safe drive home and all of that. So we left about 3 or 4 hours after she was born. And so the guys had come over, because she was born on a Friday, so the guys ended up coming over on the Sunday so the kids could meet her, and we all have lots of pictures of that. And we usually see them about twice a week now, so it's exciting and amazing. And this is a long video, so I'm gonna stop. I'm talking too much probably, I apologize. But I do not have any photos of me in labor. I do not have any footage of me in labor. I do believe the guys did take a video of her being born, but I'm pretty positive my lady bits are probably in there. So I'm not comfortable putting all of that onto show for the world. I apologize. But I do have photos of when she was born and stuff like that, which I will attach at the end of this video. So as I mentioned before, I had taken photos as well of my postpartum one day each week for the first week. So there's that. So when I was very last pregnant, I was reaching 191 pounds. After she was born, 24 hours later, I got on the scale and I was 185, I believe. I don't have a paper in front of me this time, so I'm sorry. But I had lost exactly what she weighed, the 7'8". And then I weighed myself again at the 1 week postpartum mark, and I was down to, I was 175. And I weighed myself again today at 2 weeks postpartum, and I am now at 168. So I've lost, you know, a pretty good amount of weight so far. I do need to get back down. When I got pregnant, I was 145, but before we started the process, I was 135, just the medications, because it took 2 transfers to get pregnant. So I did gain that 10 pounds between transfers and medications and stuff like that. So I do want to get back down to 135. So I will go ahead and lower this tripod quickly so I can show you my postpartum body. And I will also put all the photos in as well. So give me 1 second. All right, tripod is lowered. I'm gonna go ahead. I don't have my maternity shorts or pants on this time, but I'm gonna lower these so you can see my little bit of my saggy stomach that I got here. I'm not sucking in or anything right now, so you can see the full truth, okay? So you can see that there's a little bit of sagginess here. I got some little back chunk back here, but my ab lines are right back, which is nice. I'll go up so you can see a little bit closer. This is 2 weeks postpartum. And there's my back. But when I suck in, you can see it looks a little bit better, a little bit nicer. Now, as far as what I've been doing, I've just been trying my best to eat healthy, and I do have a little pregnancy girdle thing I've been putting on, which I'll show you as well. So starting day 3 postpartum, I started putting this on. It's like a 2-piece thing. So this piece here I'm not going to put it all the way on right now, but this piece kind of goes up here and wraps around up here and gets pulled tight. And this piece goes on slightly lower around this area like this and gets pulled tight as well. And I wear that every day. I try to wear it for at least 12 hours a day. It's not a thing that you have to do or anything. It's just something that I've been trying to do to try to get my belly to shrink a little bit faster, which has been very helpful, and it has been working, so I'm super thankful for that. So again, I started that at about day 3. I don't wear it every single day, especially when the guys are coming, I take it off, because when they do come, I'm able to breastfeed the baby. I forgot to mention that as well. I did breastfeed her shortly after she was born as well. Breastfeeding the baby is really beneficial for both her and for me. The first time I was able to help my milk, helps the connection and help my milk to come in. And whatnot. And then when I fed her the second time, my breast milk did come in the very next day. The third time they came over and I breastfed her, my milk production had actually increased, and since then every time I do breastfeed her, my milk increases. So I do pump every 3 to 4 hours, and I'm making about 6 ounces every single time I pump. So she has quite a lot of milk to last them for the rest of the time where they are here, and we are currently looking in to the possible cost of shipping breast milk out that way, because she is doing really well on it. So she did have a checkup with the midwives recently, and because she was 7'8" when she was born, she got down to 7'6", because naturally all newborn babies do lose a little bit of weight, and then now she's back up to 7'15", which is incredible, because she's only 2 weeks old and she's doing great. She's drinking, I believe, just over 2 ounces each feeding now, which is awesome. So, and she is such a calm, and most newborn babies that I've ever experienced or seen, they usually have their hands and fists like this, and they're a little bit more like curled up kind of thing, but she is just so calm. She's relaxed. Her hands are always open. She's always just stretched out and just so relaxed and calm. She's such a peaceful, amazing baby, and the guys joke around and they say it's because she knows that they don't really know what they're doing, so she's being easy on them, but they're doing such a wonderful job with her, and they're doing amazing, and she's amazing, and just like I'm just so in love with all of them. Anyways, I'm gonna stop talking now. I hope you have enjoyed this video. As soon as I say goodbye to you guys, I will post all of the photos I have promised. I will first post the photos of that I have of her the moment she was born, and my postpartum videos after my postpartum photos after that, and then the video will stop. So you'll probably have maybe another minute or so of just photos. All right, so that is it. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I apologize that it is so incredibly long, and that I don't have any footage of the birth, but you get to hear me talking and all the wonderful stuff. If you guys have any questions about the labor, the delivery, the birth, anything, please let me know in those comments below. I do apologize that I was not able to get to the pregnancy questions that were asked of me. The day I was actually going to film the part 2 of the belly questions, is actually the day I went into labor, so I wasn't able to get to those on time. If you do want me to still answer them, I am still willing. Even though I'm postpartum, I will totally answer all the questions still. If you want, just let me know in the comments. And yeah, I hope you guys have a great day, morning, evening, whatever time you're watching this, and take care. Bye.